Come on in, everybody. Come on in, everybody. Yes, yes. Yes, yes. Come on in. How's everybody doing this morning? That was a wild episode, right? That was incredibly crazy. I cannot believe that episode went that way. There were a lot of things that I thought were going to happen in this season of Loki. It wasn't confirmed that we were going to get another season, but there are a lot of things I thought was going to happen. And that was it. Actually, I figured we would see Kang come in at some point. I figured it would be he who remains at the end of all time, sitting at the citadel of all time. I also figured that we would see Miss Minutes again. So seeing her again was pretty cool. And the entirety of the series, the whole time the series was going on, I was really thinking like, man, Miss Minutes has a very creepy vibe to her. And she was ultra creepy in this episode, like super, super creepy. So we're gonna give some other people some time to get in here. But yes, yes. Hey everyone, Ridden here, and today we're going to be taking a deeper look at episode 6, the finale of season 1 of Loki. So we're gonna break down everything. We're gonna take a look at it. We're gonna speak about it. I'll also post a review video at some point later on my channel as well. So let's do it. Let's take a look at everything. Yes, yes. Let's make sure everything is right. Let's make sure the audio is on for everybody to hear. Yes, yes. Let's make sure everything is right. Let's make sure the audio is on for everybody to hear. Okay. Awesome. 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 So again, guys, welcome back. Ridden here, and today we're going to be taking a quick, deep rundown and look at episode 6 of season 1 of Marvel's Loki. All right, so the season finale is here. Everything we've been waiting for is here. All of the different theories and predictions that we all had, we got to see if they came true. I love the episode. I can't say right now where Loki ranks for me in terms of the top 3, in terms of Loki, WandaVision, and Falcon and the Winter Soldier. I can definitely say I think WandaVision is for sure my favorite Marvel Disney Plus show so far. Definitely my favorite. Loki might actually be my third. That's not to say that I didn't enjoy it and that I didn't like it, but WandaVision is still number 1 for sure. So I'm going to say WandaVision, and I'm gonna have to go back and watch Loki again. I really enjoyed Falcon and the Winter Soldier. I really enjoyed that journey. I liked what they did with Sam. I like what they did with Bucky. I like what they did with the Sharon Carter. I felt like they wasted her a bit, but it wasn't too terrible. I like seeing Zemo come back. I loved Wakanda's reintroduction there. So it's gonna. I don't know because I don't want to say that Loki is third right now because then everybody assumes, oh, you didn't like Loki. That's not at all what I'm saying. I really enjoyed Loki, but it just the first couple of episodes were good. There were 3 episodes that I really enjoyed. There were 2 episodes that I didn't really enjoy. I thought they were a bit of a lull, and I really enjoyed the finale. I really enjoyed episode 6 just now. There was a lot of explaining going on. It wasn't a ton of action. So we're going to dive into it. We're going to give some other people a chance to get in here, and then we'll dive into it, and we'll take a look at all of the different things that were discussed and that were said, okay? So again, I want to formally welcome everyone. My name is Ridden, and today we're going to be taking a deeper look at episode 6 of season 1 of Marvel Studios' Loki. Okay, welcome back. Welcome back. So So when so the episode starts like fast, like we get right there. We don't even take the time to see them walking into the cloud, or we don't get to see them walking past Eliab, walking to the Citadel. We start right on the doorstep, right? So I thought that was very interesting. We assumed that what we saw behind the Citadel at the end of all time was the sacred timeline, and ended up being the sacred timeline. So I thought that was pretty cool. You see a little bit of hesitation from Sylvie when she gets to the door, which which was kind of interesting, and it was cool kind of seeing Loki reassure her. It was very creepy. So as soon as they walk in the door of the castle, you see the statues everywhere. At this point, we still have no idea what's going on. We still have no idea what's awaiting them. The trailer didn't really provide too much context, but the one of the creepiest moments of the episode for sure is the superimposed, super enlarged view of Miss Minutes as she just kind of comes in. She's like, "Hey guys, what are you doing?" So I've loved the Miss Minutes character this entire series. I've really enjoyed Tara Strong. She's done a fantastic job. The Southern accent on Miss Minutes has been great. And the entirety of the show, the entirety of this series run, I kept thinking Miss Minutes comes off super creepy. And in this episode, she sort of comes full circle. She's definitely creepy, even more so in this episode. So I thought that was pretty good. Right out of the gate, we also get an answer to who's the man behind the curtain, right? So this was a little bit of a throw off, right? In the situation that it was a little bit of a bait and switch, right? Because Ms. Minutes comes right out of the gate. They ask, who is this person that's waiting on us? Who is this person that has all these options and ultimatums for us? And Ms. Minutes says, "He who remains." Like, she just comes right out and says it. I knew at that time that it had to be something else to it. I knew that they just weren't going to give away the big reveal right there. Even though technically it would have been nice for them to give the big reveal away a little bit earlier in the series. I really didn't like the choice to wait until episode 6 for the big reveal, because when you do that, when you wait until episode 6 for the big reveal, you only have an episode to do something with it, right? It would have been great to learn what we learned about Kang the Conqueror and Jonathan Majors in episode 4, episode 5. If we had learned it then, we would have had time to sort of fully, somewhat develop with the character. Now, granted, what they went for in this episode, I get why they waited on it, right? I totally understand it. So Ms. Minutes comes out, boom, it's he who remains, right? So we know that. And we know that from the comics, that's exactly the way it is. He who remains was the final time director of the TVA. He sat at the Citadel at the end of all time. He dealt with the time twisters, and he just waited on the next universal cycle. So we know that's his story. It's not really much about him out there. It's a pretty simple tale. I had somewhat of an inkling that they were gonna maybe try to blend He Who Remains and Kang. I had a feeling that was exactly what they were gonna do, and that's exactly what they did. Let me pull this a little bit closer. And that's exactly what they did, right? So Loki and Sylvie, they traverse the castle. You can both tell that they're a little bit shook up, they're a little bit scared, but they begin to traverse the castle, which was pretty cool. You see the statues from all over the place. I think we saw some ancient Egyptian statues. I think these were just sort of statues and pieces from all throughout time, as we learn. But then they get into sort of the big hallway, the big foyer, and for the big reveal was so cool. The big reveal was so nice. The doorway opens up. There's light that comes out, and boom, we see Jonathan Majors. And I knew the second that we saw Jonathan Majors, I knew that wasn't the Kang the Conqueror that we're probably going to become really well acquainted with. I knew that was not our main guy. I knew it was a variant of him, right? Because Jonathan Majors comes out. We all know at this point that Jonathan Majors has been cast as Kang the Conqueror in Ant-Man Quantumania. We know that, right? So he comes out. He's quirky. He's kind of quirky. He's goofy, and I'm like, okay, this is a variant. This is the Kang the Conqueror. This is the Nathaniel Richards that's sitting at the end of all time. He probably knows there are other more terrible versions of himself, and that's what we find out later in the episode. That is exactly the case. So the big reveal was awesome, and we knew immediately that Loki and Sylvie would try to kill him, of course, right? So they try to kill him a couple times, and it doesn't exactly go well, right? So that was interesting to see that bit. We end up in his office in the elevator with the guys, and he's just kind of jibbing them. You can tell they're a little bit lost. So the elevator scene with Kang the Conqueror was also pretty cool, right? Because we've seen Loki and Sylvie in the elevator before, right? We saw them in the elevator with Ravonna when she was on the way down to take them to see the Timekeepers originally. So it was sort of a cool play on scenes to see them in the elevator again with I guess you could say another Timekeeper. This time around, Kang's in the front of them. He's not behind them, right? Because he's leading it. Like, he knows what's going on. In that instance, Ravonna truly didn't. So her being behind them was sort of a cool play on the scenes, if we want to look at it that way. Let me see here. And also, I don't want to glance over the fact I thought it was really cool too. When Miss Minutes first comes out and she greets Loki and Sylvie, we sort of get the vibe that whoever is at the end of all of this is sort of scared, right? Because Miss Minutes comes out and she's throwing out all these ultimatums and these options to them. And in the back of my mind, I was like, okay, whoever is here is maybe sort of scared. Maybe this is going to be a Mandarin kind of deal. Like, Jonathan Majors is going to come out and he's just going to be this little old wiry old man that's super terrified of Loki and Sylvie. That wasn't the case at all, though. Apologies, everyone. I'm clearly a wrestling fan. That actually happens to be my my alarm to get up bright and early in the morning. So head of the table, baby. What are you saying? Someone in the live chat is saying head of the table, baby. That's exactly what it is. So, and I'm actually going to try to pull up some screenshots for you all as well, if I can get this shown. Give me 1 second. Yeah. So yeah, I really enjoyed this episode. I enjoyed this episode so much. The big huge reveal of Kang was fantastic. It was everything I thought when we first see Kang on screen for the first time. It was everything that I anticipated and expected that to be. So that was very entertaining in its own right. I feel like a lot of us came into this episode saying it was either going to be a variant of Loki, it was either going to be King Loki, or it was going to be Kang the Conqueror or He Who Remains. I believe there was some talk about it possibly being the Living Tribunal. I wasn't too concerned about it being a Living Tribunal. I think the statue that we saw of the head of the Living Tribunal in episode 5 was just simply that. I think it was just meant to be a statue, sort of like a cool, sort of play on hey, whoever is at the end of all of this had to go through all of these beings, right? So whoever is at the end of this rainbow, whoever is behind the man behind the curtain, he had to not only deal with Elias, he had to deal with the Living Tribunal as well, right? And that always leads to Kang in the comics. The only being that's ever really kept Kang at bay, talking about chronologically timeline wise, is Elias, right? So that was a very interesting tidbit. I was also super happy to see the Mobius and Ravonna reunion. I knew at some point in the episode we had to see something between the two of them. They've had such a great relationship throughout the entirety of the show. I thought there was going to be a little bit more to the backstory of Mobius and Ravonna. It's not that I didn't like those scenes. I thought it was pretty cool, but it wasn't long enough for me. It was very brief. But I am very interested to see where Ravonna took off to, right? Because Ravonna leaves and she says, hey, I'm going to find freedom. In the comics, we do know that Ravonna and Kang have a very interesting and sort of weird relationship. So I wouldn't be shocked if at some point later in the MCU, we see Ravonna come back with another version of Kang, maybe one of the more dangerous versions of Kang, maybe one of the less quirky versions of Kang. And maybe she sort of brings him up to speed on everything she learned during her time in the TVA. Because Ravonna Renslayer goes way far back. I think initially in the comics, Ravonna Renslayer's father ran a certain quadrant of Kang's empire, and instead of Kang imposing his rule, because he was a pretty rough ruler, instead of him imposing his rule, he sort of lets her father run and in his own reign, because hey, I'm in love with your daughter. So that was a pretty interesting tidbit there as well. And again, as everybody is coming in, thank you guys so much for coming in. My name is Ridden. We're just going to be doing a quick rundown and review, just a quick episode reaction to episode 6 of the finale for Loki. I want to know what everybody thinks about it, so please, jump in the comments, leave your thoughts there. You got any questions for me? So, what is the exact meaning of showing Kang's statue in TVA in the end? So, what the exact meaning for that is? So, the exact meaning of them showing Kang's statue at the end of the episode. So the ending scene, right, was so interesting because we see Loki spazzing out. We see Loki realizing what he and Sylvie have done, right? This entire show was about Loki making that transition that we saw him do during his entire time in the MCU. So all the growth that we saw through those various films, they sort of fast tracked him through that, right? They accelerated that in this show, right? So the Loki that you see at the end that's spazzing out to Mobius and Hunter B-15, he realizes that they made a grave mistake, right? Like he realizes they're in trouble, something's wrong. Beforehand, in that space where we see the singular Kang statue, there were 3 Timekeepers, right? And Loki just sat down and listened to this guy tell him, hey, I'm a devil, right? But I'm the singular devil, and I'm the quirky devil, right? You could deal with a much worse devil, and ultimately, I think we are, which is what we see. That is the Kang that that is the Kang that He Who Remains was worrying, what was warning us about, right? It is that singular Kang. We don't know, what exactly happens, but Hunter B-15 and Mobius have no knowledge of this Loki. They're completely confused. They're referring to a he. A he wants them to prune all of these timelines. A he wants them to handle all of these branches. So when we see that singular Kang statue at the end, it means a problem. It means something has gone drastically wrong. That's what that means. And we're gonna see the ramifications of what Sylvie has done going further in the MCU for sure. Another interesting tidbit, something I definitely want to touch on, is I thought it was so interesting seeing where Ravonna actually comes from, actually seeing Ravonna's origin. When we see Hunter B-15 back at the high school, which I'm assuming is Franklin D. Roosevelt High School, she walks into the office. There's a desk. It's got a ton of blue pens, orange pens, different color pens, and we see Hunter U-92 come in. And before he goes to attack, she says, "Hey, I have something to tell you." Judge Renslayer walks in, but it's not Judge Renslayer. It's a variant of Ravonna. So now we know that could be a possible connection for Kang and Ravonna, right? Because Judge Renslayer is a teacher, right? And we know that Kang, as he told Loki and Sylvie, he's a science teacher as well. So it was very interesting seeing another version of Ravonna. I didn't really expect that. I expected to see multiple versions of Mobius. I really wasn't expecting to see multiple versions of Ravonna. I also expected for there to be more of Ravonna this episode. As I said before, there wasn't. I'm okay with that because I know we'll be seeing her again with characters like Ravonna and characters like and characters like Agatha. I'm okay with them, maybe having shorter stints in these shows because we know we're going to see them down the road, right? And I mean, now that it's been confirmed that there's going to be a season 2 of Loki, we can definitely expect to see Ravonna back for sure. Let's see here. Thank you. We got some people in the live chat. It is tons of hard work. It is tons of hard work. I appreciate your subscription. Please come back. I'm gonna be putting up more videos. I have a Black Widow review coming out. It should be coming out in the next 2 or 3 days. I just watched it Tomorrow War recently. I'm gonna be reviewing that as well, and then we'll actually have a full spoiler and reaction and Easter egg breakdown video coming for Loki episode 6 as well too. And when What If starts, I'll be doing these lives, and I'll be doing the full breakdown videos for those too. So thank you everyone for being here with us this early in the morning. I know it's not easy, but after I watch these episodes, after I watch these shows, I can't go back to sleep. I got to talk about it, and I like to be able to talk about that with other people from this fan base. So I appreciate everyone that's here right now. Yes, yes, yes. Oh, also another one of the very, very interesting things. What is Kang? Kang tells Loki he's a flea on the back of a dragon. Right? I thought that was so interesting. But tell me in the comments, guys. I mean, how did Jonathan Majors play Kang to you? What was his portrayal like to you? Did you enjoy Jonathan Majors' portrayal? Did you think it was a little bit too over the top? You know, considering that this isn't the Kang the Conqueror, I guess, that we're supposed to ultimately end up with, I think him playing He Who Remains in this way was pretty cool. Look, we're not gonna get an old withered, He Who Remains from the comics, right? We're not gonna get that. That probably wouldn't be too interesting on the screen anyway. So I think the way that Jonathan Majors played it was perfect. This is a character who has been through everything. This is a character who's seen everything. And I believe, and I could have a poor understanding of this, but it seems that this is the first variant of He Who Remains, right? It seems like this is the very first variant because he says, hey, initially there was a variant of me in the 31st century. He was a scientist. He was curious. He finds out that there are universes stacked on top of one another. And obviously there are other versions of himself that also finds out that there are universes stacked on top of one another. Those scientists, those different versions of Kang start conversing. And as they start conversing, problems break out. There's only so long that there's going to be humility in a situation like that, right? And so problems break out. Multiversal war starts, but he also makes the point to say, hey, the multiversal war broke out, but the very first variant that he talked about, that he told Loki and Sylvie about, encountered a creature that consumed time, and consumed everything that he came around, and that was Goliath. So the very first variant of Kang weaponized Goliath and ended the multiversal war. So I guess my question would be, or my inkling, the statement I would make is that I believe what we see here is the very first variant of Kang, right, that he was describing. So let me know in the comments if you guys agree with that, please. Yeah. So the Loki, yeah. So the Loki's trying to kill Kang. I thought that was hilarious, man. I was cracking up. Uh, and they keep going at it and they keep trying, and it doesn't exactly go their way. So I thought that was pretty cool. You could also tell that they were sort of deflated when he tells them, hey, every step you took was down a road that I paved. All of this free will, all of these things that you guys think you were doing, like I did that. I set that up for you. I made that path. So now, granted, it leads us to a bigger question, right? Because it is the TVA called for? What is your vantage point and your viewpoint on the TVA now as it stands, right? Because this whole thing is supposed to be unethical, right? And it's an interesting question to ponder. It's an interesting thing to think about, right? Because we now have the sacred timeline that he's pruned, that he's sort of kept in shape and kept going, and he's kept all the branches from forming, right? But would we rather have that in a singular devil, as he tells Loki and Sylvie, right? We rather have that, or would you like to turn around and be dealing with multiple versions of this guy? And like I said, I think when we do get to see the other versions of him, I think they're going to be much, much, much more terrifying, right? I think they're going to be much worse, right? So is I I'm happy that we got to see the jovial, sort of quirky Kang now, because I know that the version that we're going to see later and later iterations of himself throughout the MCU probably aren't going to be as jokey. They're probably going to be 10 times worse than Thanos, I would imagine. So I found that incredibly interesting. I also found it interesting. I really love the fact when Sylvie is telling them, "Hey, like you're a bad guy. None of this stuff that you're doing is right. None of this stuff you're doing is fine." And he tells Sylvie, "Hey, like grow up. We're all villains here." I thought that was pretty interesting, right? Because we've grown to look at Loki and Sylvie as heroes. I mean, the entirety of this show is about Loki and Sylvie for the most part. Mainly Loki, mainly our main Earth 616 Loki, but we've grown to look at them as heroes. But Sylvie was doing some pretty terrible stuff before they brought her in. I mean, she was luring agents, she was luring TVA agents to certain places and just killing them. I mean, she was burning people alive, right? So in some way, we can look at all three of them, at Loki, at Sylvie, and at He Who Remains, as somewhat, of a villain. All right, let's see. What other questions do we have here? So another part of the episode that I definitely want to talk about. Let's see if we can turn this. Let's turn this a little bit more. Yeah. Okay. So another part of the episode I want to speak about is I thought it was very interesting, right? Because Kang's talking, he's bloviating. And then he stops and he says, "We've crossed the threshold. We've crossed the threshold. We haven't been here before. I haven't been here before." He starts sort of doing things to test it. So I thought that part was interesting. I thought it was interesting that he came out and said he was fibbing, that he hadn't been there before. So for me, that's when the episode sort of got interesting. When he takes off the temp pad and sort of slides it across the table and says, "Hey, one or two things are going to happen, right? Either you guys are going to kill me right now and unleash the various versions of myself upon the timeline, or you two Lokis can take over for me. Loki and Sylvie can take over for him, and he can sort of step away." So I at one point I did think that's what was going to happen. I thought maybe Loki and Sylvie, they clearly like each other a lot, which is again weird, but they clearly like each other a lot. Maybe they would decide to do this thing together, and that wasn't to be. Unfortunately, that's not what Sylvie wanted, right? When Sylvie did kill He Who Remains, it had all the weight I think it was intended for it to have, right? Because when it happens, you're like, oh shit, oh, like she really just did it, and then you do all of that, you do all of this, you do all of this with the possible ramifications. You do all of this just to sit on the floor and cry, right? So she kills him, and my favorite part of the episode, my favorite line in the entire episode, she stabs him, and he goes, "He who remains," he goes, "I'll see you soon." That was the creepiest, coolest line of dialogue possibly in this entire show, because we know what that means. We know that we're going to see Jonathan Majors again. It was such a well-kept secret that he was even going to be in this show. I find it amazing that they were able to have that not be mentioned. And it just speaks volumes to how professional Marvel has gotten, how tight Marvel has gotten with some of their secrets and some of their casting and what goes on. I really, really, I didn't think we were going to see him actually embody the role of Kang the Conqueror or Mortis or Nathaniel Richards or Mr. Griffin. I didn't think we were going to see that in Loki. It seemed like for me initially it was going to be too far out in left field. but it happened and we got it. And he got an entire episode to sort of explain his run and explain who he is. I love the explainer that he gave. I love the 34th, the whole 31st century metallurgy thing that he showed him. I thought that was pretty cool. But I really wish, I really wish Sylvie hadn't killed him though. I really wish she hadn't killed him. So wrapping up, we finally got our moment between Loki and Sylvie. We finally got the kiss. They finally sort of tell each other, what they mean to one another. So I thought that was pretty cool. I was expecting our Loki, if there was going to be any double crossing, I was expecting our Loki to be the one that did the double crossing. I wasn't necessarily expecting for it to be Sylvie that did the double crossing, but it was. So that happened. I wasn't expecting. I thought it was very interesting for her to sort of push him back to the TVA, but I guess that sets up the final reveal that we see at the end of the episode. So that was pretty cool. I'm trying to see if there was anything else that took place that for me was like a big wow moment. It does seem like Miss Minutes is some sort of entity of her own, right? In the very beginning of the episode, I was like, okay, maybe Miss Minutes is actually, whoever the man behind the curtain is. Maybe Miss Minutes is that person just speaking through some sort of software. But I found it interesting that when they were initially met Kang, or when they initially met He Who Remains, they ask him his name. He says, "Oh, I go by many names," and they mention He Who Remains, and he says, "Oh, she's still calling me that." So it's clearly Miss Minutes is some sort of entity, unto herself. And it turns out that Miss Minutes knew the truth of all of this the entire time, right? Miss Minutes knew more than Ravonna the entire time, right? It was in our faces the whole time. So I thought that was pretty interesting for sure. And I thought it was very sweet to see Loki tell Sylvie, "Hey, I don't want the throne. I don't want control. I just want for you to be okay." Right? I thought that was pretty cool. But ultimately, a Loki is going to be a Loki. And Sylvie had to see her plan through. I don't think this makes Sylvie a bad character. We don't know what happens to Sylvie. For all we know, Sylvie is still going to remain in the Citadel at the end of all time until another version of Kang shows up, and ultimately either kills her or subjugates her. We don't know what's going to happen to Loki at this point. So a season 2 is definitely warranted. A season 2 is definitely needed. There are going to be tons of theory crafting. There's going to be tons of theory crafting that goes on about what could possibly happen in a season 2. I guess we're going to find out what could happen in the season 2. But I just, like I said, I really enjoyed this episode. Please, guys, down in the comments below, let me know what you thought about this episode. Let me know what theories you have about what could happen in season 2. Let me know what theories you have about when is the next time we're going to see Ravonna. Let me know what theories you have about, when's the next time we're going to see Kang. Maybe we see Kang again before Ant-Man and Ant-Man and Quantumania. Maybe we see Kang and Doctor Strange, right? So please, guys, jump down in the comments. Let me know what you think below. Let me know how you enjoyed the episode, what you thought about the episode. Let me know in the comments below what you thought about the entire series. I liked it. As I said earlier, for me, in terms of where Loki ranks, I think right now it ranks 3rd. That's not to say I didn't enjoy it. I did enjoy the series, but I think right now WandaVision is still my favorite show. I think Falcon and the Winter Soldier is a comfortable number 2. And I think Loki comes in number 3. Like I said, it's not that I didn't like it. It's the show is far out. The premise isn't grounded at all in terms of what we've seen so far in the MCU. So it wasn't that it was a bad show. I just don't think it was as consistent as the rest of the shows, right? There were some really good episodes of Loki, but then there were some really flat episodes of Loki, right? So I would say they had 3 good episodes and 3 bad episodes. Whereas with Falcon and the Winter Soldier, I believe there was like a 5-1 ratio. 5 episodes were really good. 1 episode was kind of flat. And with WandaVision, I actually enjoyed every single episode of WandaVision, even the initial 2 episodes that everybody else probably didn't care for too much. Where it was just kind of setting it up in the sitcom sort of era. I think I enjoyed all 6 episodes of WandaVision. I enjoyed at least 5 episodes of Falcon and the Winter Soldier. And with Loki, I would say I thoroughly enjoyed 4 episodes of Loki for sure. There were 2 episodes where I just felt like the plot was sort of at a standstill. The Lamentis episode was okay. It was okay. I felt like there wasn't enough that happened there. But again, I don't want that to come off as I didn't like the show. I like the show a lot. I love what Tom Hiddleston did with it. I love what Sophia DiMartino did. Gugu Mbatha-Raw, I loved her character in this. We always love to see Owen Wilson. Wumi Masako, I loved her character in this. I hope we see more Hunter B-15. Maybe her and Mobius are gonna run things around the TVA now. So it was a great series, and as always, Marvel delivered quality. Right? That's what Marvel does. Marvel delivers quality, and they definitely deliver quality in this instance again. So please, guys, jump down in the comments below. Let me know what you thought. You can follow me on all my social media. So like right here, I have @WrittenFlows. I'm @WrittenFlows everywhere. So I'm @WrittenFlows on Instagram. I'm @WrittenFlows on TikTok. I'm @WrittenFlows on Twitter. So please come over and see me. I do live action Disney Plus, Marvel, and Star Wars content reviews. Also review different films. I did a review recently for A Quiet Place 2. I'll be doing a review for Black Widow. I'll also be doing a more full fleshed out review for Loki episode 6. So that'll be coming at some point in the next few days. I have a Loki episode 5 review video as well, but we had some issues getting that posted, so that will go up too. So there's tons of content on the channel. Please take a look at the channel. Take a look at some of my older videos. My favorite movie of the year thus far was Judas and the Black Messiah. I really, really enjoyed that film. So take a look at that review. We've got reviews for other animated films on the channel as well. And we're going to be bringing you more content. So please feel free to take a look. And if you feel so inclined, come back week after week. Join us. Join the family. Subscribe. And we'll see how far we can take this thing. Okay. So I'm going to sign off, guys. It's been fun. And as always, it was written. Again, guys, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and click that bell for notifications if you've enjoyed our content here tonight. Jump down in the comments and let me know your thoughts. And while you're at it, be sure to check out some of the other content here on the channel. All of the necessary links are listed here below for you to keep up with the coming content and shareables. Please be sure to follow me on all social media platforms, or just the one you use most frequently. We are slowly but surely building a community here, and I would personally love for you to be a part of that. And last but not least, we have a merch store. So whether you see something you like or just simply want to support the channel, head on over to our shop and grab something, or grab everything. But again, thank you so much, guys and gals, for visiting here with us today. I really appreciate each and every viewing minute of your time you've given us. There's loads of content we'll be sending your way, so I'll be seeing you. But for now, be blessed. And it was written.
Across the nighttime, the city sleeps inside. Yeah, hear voice, shake my window, sweet seduce.